Please remember to take your receipt. Thank you for shopping at CVS. Please remove all bagged items.
And cheese. Repeatedly up and down Winston had a of his Winston's fellow tenant at Victory Mansions was in fact threading his way across the room. An all-out effort, but talk about keenness. Flourish best under the dominion. Those two nippers of mine set fire conceivable that its members could ever. Neighbors, films, football, beer, and above all, gambling filled up the horizon of their minds. To keep them in control was not difficult. This is Parsons, and began copying a passage into the diary. How could you tell how much of it was cadging a saccharin tablet? Lavatories. He seemed to... He reached down and scratched his ankle again. Day and night, the telescreens bruised your ears with statistics proving that people today, even the things that one accepted without question was pure fantasy. For all he knew, there might never have been any such law as the jus prime noctis, or any such creature as a capitalist, or any such garment as a top hat. Catherine had parted, but the really relevant date was 7 or 8 years earlier. All the rest had by that time been exposed as traitors and counter-revolutionaries. Goldstein had fled and was hiding, no one knew where, and of the others, a few had simply disappeared, while the majority had been executed after spectacular public trials at which they had made confession of their crimes. Among the last survivors were 3 men named Jones, Aaron, than he had known that of Big Brother. But also they were outlaw wise even to be seen in the neighborhood of such people. They were sitting in silence before glasses of the gin flavored with cloves, which was the specialty of the cafe. Like a old crimes over a geological theory, written until the original facts and
that's an abandoned house.
Might also be wrong. It was inevitable. Objects unsupported fall toward the Earth's center, a rash act, since you could be certain that the number of your attendances at the center were carefully checked. In principle, a party member had no spare time and was never alone except in bed. It was assumed that when he was not working, eating, or sleeping, he would be taking part in some kind of communal recreations. To do anything that suggested a taste for solitude, even to go for a walk by yourself, was always slightly dangerous. There was a word for it. In astonishing numbers, girls. Steamer was a Nick customers. From their grimy swing doors, endlessly opening and shutting, there came forth a smell. At the moment, they seemed almost on the point of blows. Can't you bleeding well listen to what I say? I tell you, no number ending in 781 for over 14 months. Yes, it has, then. No, it has not. Back home, I got the whole lot of them for over 2. Stout, hook-nosed young man.
Yeah, back in the day, I used to work in those Sam's, Costco's. I had little tables set up. I set up myself. Had little pieces of carpet. Thing called Empire Today. Just talk to people, and the dog just shit all over the carpet. I'm gonna need something new. Well, we can go get a floor inspection done for you at no charge. All we need is your name, your phone number, and preferably an address. And we show up, do an inspection, and nice dogs coming up right here. Damn, the car blocked it. And we do an inspection and get you set up with some carpet. That was back in the day, a long time ago. And I write down their name and number and phone number and address. I fax it in, and that was pretty much how I clocked in and clocked out for the day. I set up and just sit around. Hi, I'm Cole. I'm with Empire Today. All that kind of stuff. Did that for a while. Got a security camera on this one right here. Schmisty. So what we're doing right here with all this stuff, all that, we're doing what's called reconnaissance. We're seeing, well, why is the garage open and empty? And there's furniture inside. They're obviously moved in on Redfin. It said they bought it, blah, blah, blah. We go and make a little note between 1 and 5. Then between 5 and 7, we go back and see if they came back from work. Between 7 and 8, we go to all our appointments. Get your security life-saving devices, carbon monoxide or fire alarm, and get yourself a little panic button and the brains of the operation panel set up and get all that. Well, we get it ready for the install. And then the Mexican installer comes in and speaks Spanish to them. And I was joking. Then the installer comes in and the next day or so sets them up. They're part of the new homeowners program. So it's just what they get for moving in. We got $1,500 equipment at no charge. One-time install payment, and then you get your monthly bill just like you get at Hulu. It's the same amount Hulu and Apple TV would be. They about the same, only it's life-saving devices. Alarm system sounds like a fire truck alarm siren going off in your living room. So when the crook kicks in the back door, he'll be covering up his ears from that damn alarm going off. Got a lazy kitty over there. Let's look at that kitty. The squirrels are real important in this type of business. You want to make sure the squirrel gets away free and he gets all the nuts and berries and things like that it needs, because squirrels, they give off a certain energy, and if you mess with them too much, it's called bad energy, or what they know as karma. As long as you're nice to the squirrels and you don't be too mean to them, and I got a contract with that squirrel, PayPal, so I got to put PayPal in his amount right there for doing this little bit for me. Then you do good. You want to be real careful with kitty cats. Dogs, you want to be respectful of dogs too, because dogs will be your friend, and dogs are a good selling point too. You want to be friendly with dogs. Let them smell your crotch. Just let them smell it, and just smile. Just have a smile on your face. I'll show you what the smile looks like when the dog is smelling your crotch. He's a nice dog.
Inferior, simply because they were rich and you were poor? Is it a fact, for instance, that you had to call them sir and take off your cap when you passed them?
Well, you keep on going. You get the light-ons and get the move-ins and move-outs and patio lights still on. All so you keep on doing that until about about 5 o'clock. Then you just go back and hit them green go backs. Get that sale.
But in effect, it was... He was standing outside the junk shop where he had bought the diary. A twinge of fear went through him. It had been a sufficiently rash act to buy the book in the beginning, and he had sworn never to come near the place again. And yet the instant that he allowed his thoughts to wander, his feet had brought him back here of their own accord. It was precisely against suicidal impulses of this kind that he had hoped to guard himself by opening the diary. At the same time, he noticed that although it was nearly... If questioned, he could plausibly say that he was trying to buy razor blades.
Fast forwarding to the end and loading cassette 3.
The proprietor had just lighted a hanging oil lamp, which glowed with a long, benevolent nose and mild eyes distorted by thick spectacles. His hair was almost white, but his eyebrows were bushy and still black. His spectacle was a beautiful bit of paper, that was. Cream laid, it used to be called. There's been no paper like that made for, I dare say 50 years. No demand any longer, and no stock either. Furniture, china, glass, it's all been broken up by degrees. And of course the metal stuff's mostly been melted down. I haven't seen a brass candlestick in years. What appealed to him about it was not so...
Most likely that's a devil worshiper right there. You can tell by that goat right there in the horns. Or be careful on that. Usually those goats with a horn and all that. Stay away from that kind of stuff. It's like the witches or Robert Eggers, the witches thing. Let's see. I can't tell. The sidewalk goes right there. And right here could be an abandoned house too. I've been by there several times for a couple of months now. And that whole collection of stuff haven't moved and just been on the market. Just sits there. but no sign of life or anything. Now you notice the patio light's on right there, and there's no car out front, and there's no furniture. Can't really see any furniture so far. They hadn't moved in yet. It's been a while. It's been quite a bit of while. Well, I know I'm on a diet, but I gotta one of these right here. These beefy potatoes right here. About 480 calories. Every once in a while you need one of them.
There was no question that she had done it intentionally.
Seem like them beefy potatoes, they just put a lot of potatoes in there. You just get a beefy burrito and you get more beef out of it, about the same price. They just squish a bunch of potatoes in there and they don't have to put as much beef in there. Bye.
Sat down, threw the fragment of paper casually among the...
So I went on the app and made a suggestion. I just put less potatoes, more beef.
Sweat almost defeating the tinny smell of stew. It kept up a stream of talk about the preparations for Hate Week. He was particularly enthusiastic about a papier-mâché model of Big that he was able to think continuously. It was a physical problem that had to be solved. A fever seized him at the thought that he might lose her. He had only a very dim idea whereabouts.
Well, this one's been abandoned. It's been abandoned about 3 months, so it definitely could be Daniel's house. You can see that right there in a rib.
To make the whole table. Wandered around the base of the enormous in the rush. Winston followed, but the way was blocked by an enormous prole and an almost equally enormous woman, presumably his wife. Find a safe place. Her at several paces mouth. She had clasped her arms about his neck. She was calling him darling, precious. I expect I'm better at finding things out than you are, dear. Tell me, what did you think of me before that day I gave you? Feel any temptation to tell lies? 2 weeks ago, I thought seriously of smashing your head into the cobblestone. If you really want to know, I imagine it had something to do with the thought police. The girl laughed.
Thought police?
Well, it was dull, brown, crumbly stuff that Winston and Julia clung together.
Sometimes you gotta poo-poo.
The music went on a few seconds, spread out and resettled its wings, then swelled its speckled breast and again burst into song.
Pooping near ice cream.
The short, dark hair was extraordinarily thick, soft. It occurred to him that he still did not have strong body enough. The route she gave him was quite different and brought him out at a different railway station. Never go home the same way as you went out, as though enunciating an important general principle. She would leave first, and Winston was to wait half an hour before 30 years earlier. It was a good hiding place when once you got bruised and terrified. A rocket bomb must have dropped. He learned with the school too, dear. Sex talks once a month for the over-16s, and in the youth movement. They rub it into you for years. I dare say it works in a lot of cases. But of course you can never... She began to enlarge upon the subject. With Julia, the inner meaning of the party's sexual puritanism. It was not merely that the sex in... They want you to be bursting with energy all the time. Short by the edge of an old chalk quarry. It was a sheer drop of 10 or 20 meters with boulders at the bottom. There was nobody of whom they could ask the way. To be away from the noisy mob of hikers, even told Catherine to come and look at it.
I put down a broken down pig pen in a bad neighborhood, roosters crowing everywhere.
Yes, dear, you would have. I've constructed a secret world. 5 years, conceivably. I am afraid of it. You are young, so presumably you are more afraid of it than I am. Through her overalls. Her body seemed to be pouring some of its youth and vigor into his. As it gleamed softly out of the half-darkness. He would hear the woman sing after the sound of her shoes on the floor. It was curious how that predestined horror moved in and out of one's consciousness. There it lay, fixed in future time, preceding death as surely. And tumbled out some spanners, and you managed to get hold of all these things. It's all inner party stuff. There's nothing those swine don't have. Nothing. But of course waiters and servants and people pinch things. And look, I got a little packet of tea as well. Winston had squatted down beside her. He tore open a corner of the packet. It's real tea. His mouth. It was the very same scent that she had used, but at the moment it did not seem to matter. Scent, too, he said.
You go on there on the other side of Berry Street, or down here on the other side of Pascal, they call Little Mexico. The houses there range between $80,000, maybe $250,000, maybe it just depends. Sometimes $300,000 to $80,000. Down here, you're going to range between $1 million and up, really. $599,000, $1 million and up. Right up here, gonna be multi-million-dollar homes in this area over there on the other side of University. Because you're dealing with the university campus area that's going to raise the real estate up real high. There's a lot of rent houses and things like this up here, up on here, but there's a lot of $1 million homes too.
And that seemed ordinary.
Boot. This is a poot alert. Attention, poot alert. I have recently gone by Taco Bell. Bird. Attention, poot alert. Bird. Just got a beefy potato burrito at Taco. Poot alert. My high school sweetheart looked very similar to that. Very, very similar to that one.
As he had seen her fling the dictionary at Goldstein that morning during the 2 minutes hate. What was it? Plumping herself down.
Turn around, bright eyes. Kabba-dabba-dooby-dooby. Turn around, bright eyes. Kabba-dabba-dooby-dooby-doo.
What is it, do you think, Julia?
Babe alert, babe alert, swing, babe alert, swing, babe alert, swing, babe alert, swing, babe alert, swing.
Embellishing news items which were to be boasted that victory grid smelling sweat. A new poster had suddenly appeared all over London. It had no caption, and foreshortening seemed to be pointed straight at you. The thing had been plastered on every blanket, burying several hundred victims among the ruins. The whole population under the open window, naked for the sake of coolness. Itself was a sanctuary. It was as when Winston had gazed into the heart of the paperweight with the feeling that it would be possible to get inside that glassy world, and that once inside it, time could be arrested. Often they would succeed in getting married, or they would commit suicide together, or they would disappear, alter themselves out of recognition, learn to speak with proletarian accents, get jobs in a factory, and live out their lives undetected in a back street. It was all themselves as they both knew. In reality, there was no escape. Even one generation more, apparently she had not even noticed that the name of beat to the thought of lies becoming truths. He told her the story of Jones, Aronson, and Rutherford, and the momentum of the story. Were they friends of yours? Solid objects with no words attached to them, like that lump of glass there, differentiated him from the majority of it. Continued to stroll slowly down the corridor. But now O'Brien halted. With the curious, disarming friendliness that he always managed to put into the gesture, he resettled his spectacles.
If I'm not mistaken, I think a mime lived there.
What I had really intended to say was that in your article I noticed you had used two words which have become but they haven't become so very recently. Have you seen the 10th edition of the Mystic Fiction? I didn't think it had been issued.
Grand Central Station all of a sudden.
The 10th edition is not due to appear for some months.
Yeah, I think so.
Advanced copies have been sold.
Might be John Simon's house.
That anyone who was
Yeah, we got one right here. It looks like a new home.
To action.
Better look at it.
The last step
That could be
was something
Johnny
that
Simon's
happened
old
in the
home.
Ministry of Love. Yet accepted it.
But it's not actually
The
that
end
one.
was
It's,
contained in the beginning.
it's the one that's nearby, that one. But we'll get out and look. Don't know if that one's it or not. Might still be it, I don't know. I know we did a rehearsal of the Toes, Nose, and Shows Nose, or something like that. The Nose, Toes show. Yeah, I think it is this one. It definitely had an attic. But I don't really remember for some reason. I don't remember the fence being that high, but I do remember I jumped the fence one time. Yeah, it still might be, because that looks like some of the artwork. Then there's, yeah, that is. Huh. Certainly seems like it, but then again, it might not be. I don't really remember if the fence went around that way. I think there's a back door right there. I don't remember. It could be indeed. That artwork, kind of familiar because there's artwork all on there. They just might have left the artwork and left the whole house just like the way it used to be back in the mime days.
He told Julia the story of his mother's disappearance. Without opening her eyes, she rolled over and settled herself into a more comfortable position. I expect you were a beastly little swine in those days, she said indistinctly. All children are swine. Yes, but the real point of this story... From her breathing, it was evident that she was going off to sleep again. He would have liked to continue talking about his mother. He did not suppose from what he could remember of her that she had been an unusual woman, still less an intelligent one. And yet she had possessed a kind of... What have occurred to her that an action which is ineffectual thereby becomes meaningless. If you loved someone, you loved him. And when you had nothing else to give, you still gave him love. When the last of the chocolate was gone, his mother had clasped the child in her arms. It was no use. It changed nothing. It did not produce more chocolate. It did not attempting to alter him. It were individual relationships and a complete stock. Neither of us can do for the other. If I confess, they'll shoot you. And if I refuse to confess, they'll shoot you just the same. Nothing that I can do or say or stop myself.
Well, I didn't go for the healthy choice, but it's 150 calories per serving size 3. So that's, yeah. Then we got a couple of dogs right here. Yeah, this is Gracie Toon's place right here. Arts and 5th Avenue. It's where a lot of theater artists and dancers go. They do plays and all kinds of stuff.
He paused.
That's a scout.
For the first time, the vagueness of his own. If you want us to incriminate ourselves in any other way, we are ready. He stopped and glanced over his shoulder with the feeling of the door. More expression in it. It will be through Martin. When you are finally caught, you will confess. That is unavoidable. But you will have very little to confess other than your own actions. You will not be able to betray more than a handful of unimportant... So had everyone else in his own bed. Slowly, Dean had been at work.
When you make pizza pie and your boots in a snimishi morning, and your loops in an eye and your pizza pie is a snosh day. When you it looks like a badass little kitty cat.
Emerged as a distinct unit after another decade of confused fighting. The frontiers between places arbitrary, and in others they fluctuate according to the fortunes of war, but in general they follow geographical lines. Eurasia comprises the whole of the northern part of the European and Asiatic landmass from Portugal to the Bering Strait. Oceania comprises that. In one combination or another, of previous wars has come to an end. Insofar as the war has a direct economic purpose,
You see a white mark right there on his back leg. You see two white snow boots right there. He's a little kitty cat with white paw on it. He's got a little white on his right there. Good time traveling kitty cat right there. Who knows what time travel he traveled on.
between the basin of the Congo and the northern shore of the Mediterranean. The islands of the Indian Ocean and the Pacific are constantly being captured and recaptured by Oceania or by East Asia. In Mongolia, the dividing line between Eurasia and East Asia is never stable. Round the pole, all three powers lay claim to enormous territories which in fact are largely uninhabited and unexplored. But the labor of the exploited peoples round the equator is not really necessary to war. They add nothing nothing to the wealth of the world, since whatever they produce is used for purposes of war. And Ravioli backward was helpless in a military sense, and was bound to be dominated directly or indirectly by its more advanced rivals. Nor was it a satisfactory solution to keep the masses in poverty by restricting the output of goods. This happened, to a great extent, during the final phase of capitalism, roughly between 1920 and 1940. The economy of many countries was allowed to stagnate. Land went out of cultivation, capital equipment was not added to, great blocks of the population were prevented from working and kept half alive by state. The essential act of war is destruction, not necessarily of human lives, but of the products of human labor. War is a way of increases the importance of small privileges, and thus magnifies the distinction between one group and another. By the standards of the early 20th century, even a member of the inner party lives an austere, laborious kind of life.
Subs is good.
Nevertheless, the few luxuries that he does enjoy, his large, well-appointed flat, the better texture of his clothes, the better quality of his food and drink and tobacco, his 2 or 3 servants, his private motor itself. Even the humblest party member is expected to be competent, industrious, and even intelligent within narrow limits. But it is also necessary that he should be a credulous and ignorant fanatic, whose prevailing moods are fear, hatred, adulation, and orgiastic triumph. In other words, it is necessary that he should have the mentality appropriate to his state of war, either not happening or is being waged for purposes quite other than the declared ones. But such knowledge is easily neutralized by the technique of doublethink. Meanwhile, no inner party member wavers for an instant in his mystical belief that the war is real, and that it is bound to end victoriously with Oceania, the undisputed master of the entire world. All members of the inner party believe in this coming conquest as an article of faith. It is to be achieved either by gradually acquiring more and more territory, and so happens when its products can in some way be used for the diminution of human liberty. In all the useful arts, the world is either standing still or going backwards. The fields are cultivated with horse plows, while books are written by machinery.
Firehouse Subs is good.
Importance, meaning in effect war and police espionage, the empirical approach, the meaning of facial expressions, gestures, and tones of voice, and testing the truth-producing effects of drug, shock therapy, hypnosis, and physical torture. Or he is a chemist, physicist, or biologist.
My cat's breath smells like cat food.
As are relevant to the taking of life. In the vast laboratories of the Ministry of Peace, and in the experimental stations hidden in the Brazilian forests, or in the Australian desert, or on bodies. Others strive to produce a vehicle that shall bore its way under the soil like a submarine under the water, or an airplane as independent of its base as a sailing ship. Others explore even remoter possibilities, such as focusing the sun's rays through lenses suspended thousands of kilometers away in space, or producing artificial earthquakes and tidal waves by tapping the heat at the Earth's center. But none of these projects ever comes anywhere near realization, and none of the 3 superstates ever gains a significant lead on the others.
with today's kitties. One kitty, 9 lives. Each life has a number. Numbers 1 through 9. Swirl the 9 lives. Pick a 9 lives. Kitties will be having 9 lives. What will tomorrow's kitty be?